So, hey everyone, hope everybody is hanging in there. I know it's been a challenge for me for a couple of things. I mean, it's usually just busy by default, but there's always so many other things. It's like, every time I turn on the news, there's some other concerning event or legislation that I have to try and speak out against or something, and it's been very stressful. Um, Plus, the couple of things that usually are pretty solid wins for me. It's like Starfleet Academy. It's I've been really enjoying this series, but of course, every time I make a positive comment on a YouTube video, there's at least three people that are just like, really? And it's just like, you're entitled to your opinion, but why do you have to rain on my parade? I just don't understand that kind of mentality that it's just like, hey, you don't like it, I get it, that's totally cool. It's not like every Trek is going to be for every fan. But, just don't be a dick. I mean, that's really all there is to it. Um, but let's see. On a positive note, the Ursa Major Awards are still open for nomination. The Kyoto Awards are still accepting recommendations for their reading list. It's been a while since I've even had something eligible for either, but I do this year. Winterfall, if you haven't already read it. The people that have seem to have liked it, so I am reasonably confident in that it's a good product. Um, but I mean, obviously, vote your conscience, nominate your conscience, all that other stuff. But I don't know. I think it's a good thing. I mean, I always have a challenge promoting myself, I guess, because I always kind of feel, I always kind of feel nervous about it or just weird, just because, and maybe that's something that you just kind of have to get over. But it's always tricky, I think, for those of us that aren't used to it. Maybe it's just part of the business, part of the nature of publishing things, but it's also just one of those things that I usually prefer that my writing speaks for itself. And that being said, it usually is a little usually feels I don't know what the right word is, but it just when I'm pimping my own stuff, for lack of a better term, or pushing my own material, it just kind of, I don't know. It feels, I guess, better when it's somebody that doesn't have any obligation to do so. I guess it's just like, somebody buying you a gift versus you suggesting that they buy you a gift. It kind of means more if it comes from someone else. But I mean, I guess there's nothing wrong with promoting your own material, as long as you're not, being like super pushy about it or something. But that being said, let's see. I mean, there's a million things I probably would talk about, but I have a limited amount of time span today. Things got the schedule is just off, so truthfully, I have less time. But that being said, there, a couple of things I guess I can talk about real quick. In writing news, I am starting to work since it's 2026 on my new AB system, which every other day I work on a new project, and every other day I've been working on one of the projects that I'm trying to get out the door. So I have two projects going at any given time. Hopefully, the plan is that while I'm preparing projects for release this year, I will also soon be working on the drafts for projects that will be hopefully released next year, and so on and so forth. So I'd like to try and leapfrog like that if I can, just so I always got something in the fire, just so I'm making progress on my own projects and so on and so forth. Um, right now, I am working on Wandering Roads, which is Lucy and Kate's story. It's a lesbian romance with a little bit of a con artist twist thrown into it. Um, I had the plot worked out mostly. I mean, there may be changes as I go, I guess, but so far I've been working on I guess what would be considered Act Two. Um, so far it's going all right. It's like it's it's been a challenge to be creative in the current environment, but it's just kind of like best what I can do is like I've been donating money to charities. I've been focusing on what I can do. I've been trying to protect my mental health as much as possible, which I know is a challenge these days, especially as a trans person in a red state, which doesn't do me any favors. Um, but it's writing is going all right, so there's that. And it's I'm trying to stay focused and keep working on it. And if nothing else, it keeps me productive, just because it keeps me regularly focusing on that. In video news, as you can probably guess, it's going to be a limited day today because I'm working with half the time that I normally have. So the only things that I know I want to get done in this particular session is, of course, a vlog, which I'm doing now and you're watching, and recording the video plate for some book reviews. I have a couple that I am blanking on what they are right now, but they should all be relatively short to film. And then, I don't know if I'll bother trying to edit today or not. It really just depends on what time looks like when I finish and if I have the spoons to do it. But if not, next time I can do editing and I can work on some more scripts and stuff. It's like there's always a production cycle going on, but it's just like the writing. I just do it as much as I can stand to do it, as much as I can enjoy doing it, as much as I can get done in the time that I have, which life these days always requires me to be pretty flexible between myself and my partner and just everything going on. So it's just like I do what I can. I do the best I can with what I have. Books I'm reading. I'm still reading the same 7-ish books, which is a lot. It sounds like a lot, and it is. And normally I don't read that many at a time. I read like 3, but I'm trying to catch up, I guess, a little. But I am reading Remnant's Hope by Hugo Jackson, which I liked his work. I've liked their work in the past. Tales from the Guild, Blood and Water, which I'm interested to see, what the offerings are from this particular collection of writers. So far, it's been pretty good. On the average, it's been very high quality, as I would have expected from the Writers Guild. Moondust, Falling from Grace, I think is the subtitle. So far, it's been pretty interesting. I've been enjoying it so far. I think I'm about 3 or 4 chapters in, somewhere in there. And, things haven't really gotten started yet, but so far it's been a good book. I'm reading Legends and Lattes, which has been a joy to read. I'm a little more than halfway, I think. And, I'm definitely curious where it's going, but it's been really fun sort of reading this, like, this little juxtaposition of normality mixed in with a fantasy sort of setting. An orc just stops adventuring and decides to open up a coffee shop, which has been a lot of fun. Debating on whether or not I'll continue with the second and third book. I do know it's supposed to be based around a Ratkin character, or at least that a Ratkin character is present, which, will certainly attract my attention, but it really just depends. I might just slot it on the books to read in the future when I get time to get around to it, sort of thing, and all that. I am still working my way through Off the Beaten Path by Rukas. It's very good. I've no doubt I'll finish the trilogy. I'm also looking into some of the other Red Lantern books that they have, and they've done a really good job of world building in a furry-ish setting. A lot of the choices that they make are things that hadn't even occurred to me until they popped up, and it's just like, wow, that's like a really good use of furry characters and settings, and it's absolutely, Rukas is one of those authors that I haven't even finished the book yet, and I would categorize them right up there with Kiel as the absolute top tier of furry writing. It's like, this is the best as it gets. Let's see. The last book I'm reading is A New Life, The Facility, which is not a bad book. It's not to the point that I've felt the need to drop it or anything like that. But I will say that it is definitely someone's first effort. You can clearly tell that the skill level is not quite where it needs to be for a full-length novel project. I might have suggested that they stick with short stories for a while longer. I'll have some more things to say in my complete review whenever I finally finish it, and there is a possibility that it may impress me with the ending, but based on the fact that I'm about 3/4 of the way through the book, I tend to think that's unlikely. But as always, I try and give everything a fair and objective assessment. And it's very, as long as I finish the book, it means like you at least did well enough to do that. So, there's still that angle. As far as games I'm playing, I finished Horizon Zero Dawn, which pleases me. It took a while, but I finally polished it off. It was a very large, expansive open world game. I really enjoyed it, not as much as I did the setting for like Fallout, for example. It was still, you know, still enjoyable. It's still a good game. The camera angles and stuff kind of mesh with me a little bit, so you know, sometimes I would have to stop because I would feel like my head starting to hurt. But overall, the story was good, the gameplay was good, and it was interesting. You know, I'm debating on whether or not I'll continue with the sequel or not, because it was, you know, games these days. It seems like a lot of the ones that I end up with, and I don't know if they're all like that, but it seems like they all end up being very long time commitments, and time is at a premium, especially these days for me. But it was fun. I enjoyed it. I'm still playing STO as always. Trying to get back more evenly into ESO, Fallout 76, and I need to get back into Fallout 14 at some point because I am paying for it. You know, it's like I've been playing Trails into the Sky the first, along with Trails into Daybreak 2. I do need to get back into Reverie also at some point, but I think for right now, you know, I've got like a couple of slots for when I can play video games. I just need to allocate a game to each slot and just stick with it until I finish each one, and just kind of run it like I have been everything else. You know, just do what I have to do what I can do, and kind of work with the time that I have, and you know, make adjustments as necessary. Because you know, I've been watching a lot of Holiday Baking Championship lately because cooking shows and Star Trek are usually what calms me, um, especially in turbulent times like we're living in right now. Um, you know, I mean, it's like I have to do taxes soon, which doesn't thrill me. I mean, you know, it always just makes me anxious, even though there's never been a problem. You know, it's not like, you know, I don't have very difficult taxes, but it's just like I'm always feel better when it's done. I'm debating on whether or not I'll do it tomorrow or put it off for another week, but either way, it's got to get done sometime soon because I like to get that out of the way as soon as possible so I can focus my energy on other things. Let's see. Patreon, you know, I do need to try and hopefully trying to release some short stories on a regular basis. I still need to figure out some way I can work on some short projects during the year that don't draw my focus too much away from the larger projects because, I mean, sometimes, particularly right now, you know, creative stuff takes a lot of energy and I only have so much. And you know, it's like it's sometimes tough. You know, I've been lucky so far that I have been, you know, strong enough to be able to focus on the ones that I have been able to focus on. But you know, two projects is a lot. You know, three. I don't know, even if it's just like a warm up project, because you know I kind of want to have these short stories have the same attention that I do to the larger projects, but you know it's really just a matter of hopefully maybe generating a couple of ideas and then just kind of working on them again. I guess like everything else, as I have time and I have the inclination, even if it's just a paragraph at a time, because it's you know it's something I want to keep. I want to keep a little bit of a stockpile going, you know, and have the short stories perhaps hopefully like fill in the gaps on whatever project I'm working on at the time, which right now would either be the Blue Moon anthology, which is going pretty well, I think, and the Lucy Kate story, because I'm sure that there's got to be like stories that can be told in these settings. Uh, you know, I'm trying these days to just, you know, workshop it until it's ready, as opposed to, you know, I used to just kind of like if I would hit a snag, you know, it would be hard for me to not uh, consider the whole piece a failure and then just like kind of let it go. So you know, there's some short stories that I tried and they didn't go very far, and it's just like you know, it's like short stories are like relatively small, you know, bites of writing, so they shouldn't, you know, they should be doable, I guess. But you know, and there's also it's like I need to try and work on writing some scripts for writing videos or other videos, which again has been a challenge. I mean, it's like I envy some people's production value that have the resources and the time or the staff to be able to do fancy things. But you know, it's just me here with software and whatever time I have and a zero budget. So it's just like it's not fancy. It's not much, but it's you know, it's me. So if you enjoy what I have to say, if you enjoy what I do, you know, I appreciate it. There's of course always Patreon, which I always feel guilty about pushing as well. You know, there's Patreon if you're so inclined to chuck a couple dollars my way. It's never been super profitable. It's like I've never been super popular, but you know, it's there. I think like everybody has one these days. Follow me on socials if you're so inclined. I always appreciate that. And it is what it is. But for right now, the plan is to try and do video plates for a couple of reviews. And if that's all I get done today, that's all I get done today. It's like a step forward is a step forward, even if it's just a single step. So, for everybody out there that's struggling, it's like hang in there. You're not alone. We're all trying right now to do the best we can, and in a particularly challenging environment, which I don't think anybody would argue with. So just keep doing what you're doing. Keep donating to charities, signing petitions. Keep doing whatever we can do. And there'll be more stuff later, I'm sure. But I hope to have some hopefully I have some. Well, I mean, as long as you keep hearing from me, I'm still here. I'm hanging in there. Hope to have something more positive sometime soon. I guess by the next time I record a vlog, the nominations for the URSAs will be closed, and we'll see what happens. But we'll see. I mean, I don't expect anything fantastic, but it would be nifty if it did. But we will see. As always, there's a lot of good entries in what I expect to be the field this year and every year. And, I suppose that's good, because it means that, if you do, if you win or even if you make the nomination, it means you beat out quite a few folks. So, that's still something to be proud of, even if you're just nominated. And, such is the case. I mean, it seems like such a small thing in the current setting, but it really would make a difference. It would really mean a lot to me if I was anyway that fortunate. And I don't think of myself as an entitled person. It's like I don't expect anything. But we'll see what happens. And if I'm lucky, then I will be very appreciative to those folks that made it possible. And if not, then there's always next year. There's always another project, because one way or another I'm going to keep doing this as long as I can. I believe I have a lot of ideas that are on my slate that I would like to complete. A lot of ideas coming, a lot of different kinds of ideas. It's like some folks, they have like a genre that they kind of stick with, and that's great, being a specialist and such. I kind of think of myself as a little bit of a jack of all trades, because my ideas, my settings, they're all significantly different from each other. And I try and do like different types of characters. I try and introduce like same sex couples. I try and introduce I'd like to introduce, do more disability representation. I'd like to do, a whole bunch of other things. It's like I try and make sure that everybody feels seen. I like to try and do different ideas, so that if you don't like my lesbian romance with the con artist twist, maybe you'll like my Arctic post-apocalyptic adventure. If you don't like that, maybe you'll like the fantasy novel that I have on the drawing board, or any of the other ideas that I have. And it's just like, maybe you like them all, because it's like I like to try and bring a unique twist to all of my pieces, that are things that surprise you, that keep you guessing, because it's really important to me that that when you read my book, that you get at least something you weren't expecting, because I think that's that's one of my signature style elements, that I like to try and surprise you. I like to try and misdirect the audience sometimes, and see if I can do it, because it's delightful as a reader when I think you're surprised by something in a good way. It's like not a where did that come from, but just a wow, that's something I never considered. Because I think it's something, one of those skills that we really need these days. Open-mindedness, people, being empathetic towards other points of view, think things you would never have considered before, and things of that nature. So here's what I got for right now. It's like I'm working on it, and I know I'm getting on the long side of things right now. But that's it for now. I'll catch you all in 2 weeks. If you like post-apocalyptic fiction, polar bears, and adventure, check out my newest release, Winterfall, available in paperback and ebook on Amazon. And don't forget about my werewolf novel, Blue Moon.
Thanks for watching. If you liked it, click the subscribe button and leave a comment below. Catch you later.